Welcome to Miss Scarlett. Subscribe and don't miss out on Patreon. Have fun! In the soft glow of dawn, rays of sunlight pierced through the gaps in the curtains, creating an intricate dance of shadows on the floorboards. He grumbled as he stirred in his bed, wishing for a few more moments of uninterrupted slumber, unaware that his morning would begin with an intrusion. "Wake up, Your Highness!" A familiar voice, laced with amusement, rang from the doorway. "Rise and shine! Or are you planning to sleep the day away on your special day?" With a dramatic sigh, he turned, his gaze fixing on the ceiling. 6 o'clock, Vanessa. Whatever you're planning, it can wait a few more hours. Oh, but this can't wait. You should see the masterpiece I've planned for your transformation. Last year's disastrous poker game during their joint birthday celebration came flooding back. After too many drinks and a spectacularly bad hand, he'd agreed to dress as Vanessa's twin, her actual twin, for their 28th birthday party this year. He'd been so certain he would win, the words had tumbled out easily. "If I lose, next year I'll be your sister for our birthday." The door swung open, revealing Vanessa in a fluffy bathrobe, her blonde hair wrapped in a towel. She carried a large pink duffel bag that made Briggs's stomach drop. "I brought supplies," she announced, dumping the bag onto his bed with a triumphant smile. "I thought maybe you'd forgotten," he muttered, sitting up and running a hand through his short blonde hair. "Forget the greatest bet win of my life? Not a chance." She unzipped the bag and began pulling out items, makeup kits, hair products, nail polish, and at the bottom, something pink and floral. Briggs winced. "Is that what I think it is?" "Your outfit for today," she confirmed, holding up a pink sundress with a delicate floral pattern. "I got us matching ones. We're going to be identical." The notion was absurd, yet not entirely implausible. People had always commented on their similarities. The same blonde hair, though his was kept short, the same blue eyes, similar lean builds, though he stood 5 inches taller. They shared high cheekbones and full lips inherited from their mother. With the right styling, the resemblance could be uncanny. "I should have never made that bet," he groaned, swinging his legs over the side of the bed. His gray t-shirt and black boxer shorts, his standard sleeping attire, felt like armor compared to what awaited him. "But you did, and Briggs Morgan never backs out of a bet." Vanessa's eyes sparkled with mischief. "Now shower. Make sure to use this." She tossed him a pink bottle. "It's a special body wash, and shave everything." "Everything?" "Everything visible in that dress. Arms, legs, chest if any shows. Don't worry, I brought a razor." 2 hours later, Briggs sat on a chair in Vanessa's apartment bathroom, freshly showered and feeling strangely vulnerable with his smooth skin. Vanessa worked on his hair, which had grown out slightly over the past few months. Not enough to be considered long, but enough that she had something to work with. "You're lucky you haven't cut it recently," she commented, applying some kind of serum. "I can actually style this into something feminine with a few extensions." "Lucky isn't the word I'd use," he muttered, wincing as she tugged at his hair. "Stop complaining. You would have made me do something equally embarrassing if you'd won." She wasn't wrong. His plan had involved her dressing as a football mascot and performing at halftime during a local game, knowing full well how much she loathed sports. Briggs watched in the mirror as his sister transformed his hair, adding clip-in extensions that blended surprisingly well with his natural blonde color. She worked meticulously, curling and styling until his hair fell in soft waves past his shoulders, framing his face in a way that already softened his features. "Now for makeup," she announced, spinning him away from the mirror. "I don't want you to see until the complete transformation." The next hour passed in a blur of foundation, concealer, eyeshadow, and mascara. Briggs had never realized how intricate the process was, or how intimate. Vanessa's face inches from his as she applied eyeliner, her instructions to look up, down, close his eyes, purse his lips. "You have great bone structure for this," she commented, blending something on his cheeks. "Most guys would need more contouring." "Great. Another career option if engineering falls through," he said dryly. "You'd make a fortune. Now, time for the clothes." She disappeared, returning with the pink sundress and a bag filled with mysterious items. "First, these." She handed him what appeared to be silicone breast forms and a bra. "You can't be serious." "Dead serious. The dress has a sweetheart neckline. You need the right accessories." Reluctantly, he took the items. "Turn around." "Oh, please. We bathed together until we were 5. "Turn around." She rolled her eyes, but complied, and Briggs awkwardly fitted the forms into the bra, following her shouted instructions. The weight against his chest felt alien, yet not entirely unpleasant. "Now these." She handed him a pair of underwear designed to smooth his male anatomy, followed by sheer pantyhose. Once those were on, Vanessa helped him into the sundress, zipping it up the back. The fabric was light and airy against his skin, falling just above his knees. She knelt to help him into a pair of sandals with a modest heel. "Can I look now?" he asked, feeling strangely anxious. One final touch. She fastened a delicate necklace around his throat and slipped bracelet onto his wrist. "Now you can look." Briggs turned to the full-length mirror and froze. The person staring back was not him, yet somehow was. Long blonde hair framed a face that was unmistakably feminine, with subtly enhanced cheekbones, lush pink lips, and eyes made larger and more expressive with carefully applied makeup. The pink floral sundress hugged a figure that appeared to have curves in all the right places, the hemline showing off legs that looked surprisingly shapely. "Holy," he whispered, unable to complete the thought. "I know," Vanessa said smugly, stepping beside him in an identical dress, her hair and makeup styled to match his. Side by side, they looked astonishingly similar, like true female twins. "You clean up nice, sis." The word struck him oddly, sending a strange flutter through his stomach. "What do I call myself today? I can't be Briggs in this getup." "I've been thinking about that." Vanessa tapped her chin. "How about Shiloh? It was on Mom's list of names before she knew she was having boy-girl twins." "Shiloh," he repeated, testing the name. It felt right somehow, soft on his tongue. "I guess I can be Shiloh for a day." "Perfect. Now, we need to work on your voice and mannerisms before people arrive." For the next few hours, Vanessa coached him on how to speak in a higher register without sounding cartoonish, how to walk in the modest heels, how to sit with knees together, how to gesture more delicately. Some of it felt ridiculous, but as the lessons continued, Briggs, or rather Shiloh, found herself adapting more naturally than expected. By the time the doorbell rang announcing the first guests, Shiloh had almost forgotten the strangeness of her situation, absorbed in the role she was playing. Almost. "Ready?" Vanessa squeezed her hand.
As I'll ever be,
Shiloh replied in her newly practiced voice, surprising herself with how natural it sounded. The party began with a few close friends arriving first, people who knew about the bet and were eager to see the results. Their reactions were a mixture of shock, amusement, and genuine amazement.
I cannot believe that's you, Briggs,
said Miguel, Vanessa's coworker, circling Shiloh with wide eyes.
If I didn't know about the bet, I would never have guessed. It's Shiloh today,
Vanessa corrected, handing them each a glass of champagne.
And isn't she gorgeous?
Shiloh felt her cheeks warm at the compliment, taking a sip of champagne to hide her discomfort. The feeling of being observed so closely was unnerving, yet there was something thrilling about the reactions, about being seen so differently. As more guests arrived, many unaware of the bet, Vanessa delighted in introducing her twin sister Shiloh without explanation. The confusion on their faces as they tried to reconcile their memory of Briggs with the woman before them was both amusing and strangely validating. "Have we met before?" asked Diane, one of Vanessa's friends from college. "You look so familiar."
I get that a lot,
Shiloh replied, the rehearsed line coming easily.
Must just have one of those faces.
As the party progressed, Shiloh noticed something unexpected. People treated her differently. Men who normally engaged Briggs in conversations about sports or work now offered to refill her drink, complimented her dress, and asked about her interests with genuine curiosity. Women who typically kept a polite distance now included her in their conversations, sharing stories and laughing with her as if she'd always been part of their circle. During a moment alone in the kitchen, Vanessa found her staring thoughtfully at her reflection in a decorative mirror. "Having fun?" she asked, bumping Shiloh's hip with her own. "It's different," Shiloh admitted. "People talk to me like I'm a completely new person." "Well, you kind of are." Vanessa adjusted one of Shiloh's blonde curls. "Is it terrible?" "No," Shiloh said slowly, surprising herself with the honesty. "It's actually kind of nice in some ways. I feel like I can just be, more open. Nobody expects anything specific from me." "That's interesting," Vanessa mused. "I never thought about how differently people treat us based on gender. Maybe you're seeing the world through new eyes today." Before Shiloh could respond, they were interrupted by a group of friends, calling them back to the living room for cake. The moment of reflection passed, but the feeling lingered. The cake-cutting ceremony became unexpectedly poignant when everyone sang happy birthday to both Vanessa and Shiloh. For a moment, it felt as if Shiloh had always existed, had always been half of the Morgan twins, rather than a one-day costume. As evening approached, the party moved from Vanessa's apartment to a local bar where they'd reserved space. Shiloh hesitated at the transition. It was one thing to play this role among friends, another to venture into public, but the champagne had loosened her inhibitions, and the positive reactions had bolstered her confidence. At the bar, their group attracted attention. Two identical blonde women in matching pink dresses created a visual spectacle that drew eyes. Shiloh felt self-conscious at first, certain everyone could see through her disguise, but as the night progressed and no one questioned her identity, she began to relax. A man approached their table, eyes fixed on Shiloh.
"Can I buy you a drink?"
he asked, his smile warm and genuine. Shiloh froze momentarily, looking to Vanessa for guidance. Her sister merely raised an eyebrow, leaving the decision to her. "Thank you, but I'm good with what I have," Shiloh finally replied, gesturing to her half-full glass.
Maybe a dance then,
he persisted. The idea of dancing as Shiloh, of being held as a woman, sent a confusing thrill through her. But she wasn't ready for that level of intimacy in her new identity. I appreciate the offer, but we're celebrating our birthday with friends tonight, she said, managing a genuine smile. He nodded respectfully.
Happy birthday to you both then. You make a stunning pair.
After he left, Vanessa leaned over. Look at you, turning down suitors already.
That was surreal,
Shiloh whispered.
He had no idea.
Of course not. You're totally passing. The phrase struck Shiloh oddly. Passing. As if this were more than a costume, more than a bet. As the night wore on, Shiloh found herself caught in moments of forgetting that the dress and hair and makeup weren't her normal state, forgetting to maintain the voice she'd practiced, forgetting that tomorrow she would return to being Briggs. These lapses didn't come with panic, but rather a strange comfort, as if she were settling into a role that somehow fit. Around midnight, when the party began to wind down, Vanessa pulled her aside. So, verdict? Worst bet loss ever, or not as bad as you feared? Shiloh considered the question seriously. Definitely not as bad as I feared. Actually, it's been educational. Educational? Vanessa laughed. That's a diplomatic answer? I mean it. I feel like I've learned something, experienced something most people never get to. How it feels to walk in someone else's shoes. Literally, she added, glancing down at her sandals.
Well, mission accomplished, then. Tomorrow you can go back to being regular old Briggs.
The statement, intended as reassurance, landed like a weight in Shiloh's stomach. Tomorrow. Regular old Briggs. The prospect suddenly felt constraining rather than liberating. Yeah, she said, forcing a smile. Back to normal. They returned home shortly after, both tired from the long day of celebration. Vanessa helped remove the extensions from Shiloh's hair and instructed her on how to properly remove the makeup. You can keep the dress if you want, Vanessa offered, hanging up her own matching outfit. A souvenir of your day as my sister.
You'd let me keep it?
Shiloh asked, surprised by how much she wanted to say yes.
Sure. It's not like I'll wear both.
Besides, Vanessa added with a wink, you never know when you might need it again. Later, alone in the guest room, Shiloh sat on the edge of the bed, the pink dress laid out beside her. Her face was clean of makeup, her hair back to its normal length without the extensions. Yet she didn't feel entirely like Briggs again. Something had shifted during the day, some internal perspective that couldn't be removed as easily as the external trappings. She picked up her phone, opened the calendar app, and after a moment's hesitation, created a new event 2 weeks in the future. Session with Ness. Her finger hovered over the save button, heart pounding in her chest. This wouldn't be about a bet anymore. This would be a choice. She pressed save, exhaled slowly, and lay back on the bed. Whatever was happening, whatever this meant, she wasn't ready to let go of Shiloh just yet. The following morning brought a strange mix of emotions as she dressed in her regular clothes, jeans, a blue button-up shirt, sneakers. The fabric felt rough against her skin after the soft dress, the shoes clunky after the delicate sandals. She looked in the mirror and saw Briggs staring back, but something in the eyes seemed different. Questioning, perhaps. Vanessa was making coffee when she emerged from the guest room. And he returns, she said, sliding a mug across the counter. How does it feel to be back? Weird, she admitted, taking the coffee. Like putting on an old costume after trying a new one. Vanessa studied her face. That's an interesting way to put it. I added something to my calendar, she said, not meeting her sister's eyes. 2 weeks from now, for another session. Vanessa's eyebrows rose, but her expression remained open. Really? Not as a bet this time? No, just for me. To explore this feeling a bit more. Is that okay? Of course it's okay, Vanessa said, reaching across to squeeze her hand. You're my brother, or sister, or whoever you need to be. I'm here for it all. 2 weeks passed with Shiloh thinking constantly about her upcoming session. She found herself noticing women's clothing in stores, studying how women moved and spoke in ways she'd never paid attention to before. At work, she felt like she was playing a role rather than being herself, a disconcerting reversal of what she would have expected. The day finally arrived. She showed up at Vanessa's apartment with a small bag containing items she'd purchased secretly online, a few pieces of makeup, a soft blue dress that had caught her eye, hair extensions similar to the ones Vanessa had used. You've been shopping, Vanessa observed with a smile, examining the contents. Just experimenting, Shiloh replied, feeling vulnerable but excited. The transformation was different this time. Less about winning a bet or fooling people, more about exploring an identity that felt increasingly authentic. They took their time, with Vanessa teaching Shiloh how to apply her own makeup, how to style her growing hair, how to move in the blue dress that hugged her figure differently than the pink one had. When they finished, Shiloh stood before the mirror and felt a sense of rightness that transcended explanation. The person looking back wasn't playing a role. She was revealing one. What are you thinking? Vanessa asked softly. I'm thinking that Shiloh doesn't feel like a costume anymore, she replied, watching her reflection's lips move in sync with the words. She feels like me. Then maybe she is you, Vanessa said simply. The sessions continued, weekly at first, then more frequently. Shiloh began growing out her natural hair, secretly taking hormones after consultation with a specialist, gradually transitioning her wardrobe. The lines between Briggs and Shiloh blurred until maintaining the division felt more exhausting than embracing the truth. 6 months after the birthday bet, Shiloh sat across from her parents at their dining room table, wearing a simple green blouse and jeans, her blonde hair now naturally reaching past her shoulders. So, you see, she concluded, after explaining her journey. The bet didn't cause this. It just helped me recognize something I think I've always known, but never had the framework to understand. Her father, silent throughout her explanation, finally spoke. You're sure about this? It's not just some phase or experiment.
I've been more sure about this than anything in my life,
Shiloh replied steadily.
This is who I am.
Her mother reached across the table and took her hand. Then Shiloh it is. You're our child, no matter what name or pronouns you use. The relief was overwhelming, not because she'd doubted their love, but because speaking her truth aloud cemented it in reality. 1 year after the infamous birthday bet, Shiloh celebrated again with Vanessa, this time as sisters by identity as well as blood. They didn't wear matching dresses this year. Shiloh chose a blue sundress that had become her favorite, while Vanessa wore a yellow jumpsuit. Funny how things turn out, Vanessa mused as they clinked glasses. Best bet I ever won.
Best bet you ever won,
Shiloh agreed with a smile.
And the best bet I ever lost.
The party was smaller this year. Only those who had supported Shiloh's transition, without question. As she looked around at the loving faces, she felt a completion that had been missing for 29 years of her life. Later, after the guests had gone, the sisters sat on Vanessa's balcony watching the sunset. "Do you ever miss being Briggs?" Vanessa asked curiously. Shiloh considered the question, watching the golden light play across the city. "No," she said finally. "Because Briggs was never fully me. He was the costume I wore until I found the courage to be Shiloh." Vanessa nodded, understanding in her eyes. "To Shiloh, then," she said, raising her glass one more time. "Who was always here, just waiting to be recognized."
"To recognition," Shiloh agreed. "And to sisters who know how to win the right bets."
They laughed together as the sun dipped below the horizon, closing one chapter and illuminating the beginning of many more to come. 2 years later, Shiloh stood before the mirror in her own apartment, adjusting the collar of her cream blouse. Her blonde hair fell in natural waves past her shoulders, her makeup subtle but skillfully applied. The woman who looked back at her was no longer a surprise, but a familiar friend, the person she had always been meant to become. Her phone chimed with a text from Vanessa. "Ready for dinner? The reservation's at 7. "On my way," she typed back, smiling at how ordinary it felt. Just 2 sisters meeting for their weekly dinner. The journey hadn't been without challenges. There had been colleagues who couldn't adjust, friends who drifted away, awkward family gatherings with distant relatives. But there had also been unexpected allies, new friendships formed with greater authenticity, and deepened bonds with those who truly mattered. As she locked her apartment door behind her, Shiloh reflected on the strange twist of fate that had brought her here. A lost poker hand, a birthday bet, a day spent in a pink floral dress. Such a small event to catalyze such profound change. She stepped out into the evening air, confident in her steps, no longer practicing how to walk or talk or be. The bet had long been settled, but the prize had turned out to be something neither she nor Vanessa could have anticipated. The discovery of her true self, hidden in plain sight all along. And that, Shiloh knew with absolute certainty, was worth infinitely more than any game of poker could ever wager.
Thanks for watching, my girlies! Be sure to check out Patreon for more!